Welcome back to our journey through Biblical Greek. In the previous lecture, we looked at why we should study Greek and also looked at the history of Koine Greek. Today, we take the next step, understanding the Greek alphabet, understanding vowels, diphthongs, and other factors that are very important to understanding Biblical Greek. Every building begins with a foundation, and for Greek, that foundation is the alphabet. Master it and you open the door to real understanding of the New Testament. And so understanding this lecture is very important because missing it means missing the foundation of Biblical Greek. And this is understanding the alphabet and pronunciation. As I said, the alphabet is a foundation for understanding Biblical Greek. And the Greek alphabet has 24 letters. And so our focus is going to be on the names and pronunciation of the small letters of the Greek alphabet. Like many other languages, Greek has a lot of similarities to English. You're going to see some letters that are familiar with English letters as we look at the alphabet. And as we look at pronunciation, as you look at pronouncing Biblical Greek, there are two major systems that are used in pronunciation. We have Erasmian system of pronunciation. This is mostly used by seminaries. And when we go to seminaries, most of them use Erasmian pronunciation. This is because it focuses on the learning structure. It's very helpful in helping the student learn Greek. And so we are going to use Erasmian system of pronunciation, but there's also modern Greek system of pronunciation. This is mostly used by native Greek speakers today. But for this course, we will follow Erasmian pronunciation since it's the standard in most Greek grammar training and focuses on clarity of learning. This may seem like simple pronunciation work, but it's actually the foundation for reading and recognizing verb forms as well as identifying key grammatical changes in the New Testament. And so it's important that we pay attention to the rules and the techniques that are involved in pronouncing the Greek alphabetical letters. And so let's go into the Greek alphabet. We're going to be looking at the alphabetical letters in groups. For example, these are the first 5 Greek letters of the alphabet. And what I'll be doing is showing you how they are pronounced as well as how they are written, so that you can get a clear picture of the letters and learn them faster. And just to give an alphabet tip, if you know the word alphabet, you already know the first 2 Greek letters, because the word alphabet is made out of the first 2 Greek letters. We have alpha, which is the first Greek letter, and we have beta. So if you know the word alphabet, you already know the first 2 Greek letters, alpha and beta, alphabet. And so the first one is alpha. Alpha has the same sound as A for the English. It's alpha as in father. The second letter is beta, and beta has the same sound as B as in Bible. Third one is gamma, and gamma has the same sound as G as in gone. And the fourth one is delta. Delta has the same sound as D as in dog or Dan. The fifth one is epsilon. And epsilon has the same sound as E as in met, as in the word met. And so these are the first 5 Greek letters of the alphabet. In fact, that's why the Bible says that Alpha and Omega, because the first letter of the Greek alphabet is Alpha and the last one is Omega. And so you have Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon. That is Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon. Let me show you how these are written as individual letters. So this is how you write alpha. There are 3 lines to help us understand and learn how to write the Greek alphabetical letters. We are going to be using imaginary lines that show how letters are balancing between the lines. Some are going to be crossing over the middle line. Some are going to be written below the middle line. Some are going to be touching slightly the top line. So these lines, the 3 lines, are going to show you how the Greek letters are to be written. And so this is how you write alpha, the first letter of the Greek alphabet. You can see that it touches the middle line as well as the bottom line, but never crosses the middle line. Second one is beta. You can see beta crosses the middle line as well as touching the bottom line. But where it turns, where the B turns, you can see it turns on the middle line. So when you're writing beta, you're going to make a turn on the middle line there, but the top is not going to touch the top line. So this is beta. Beta as in the English word better or bad or bed. That B sound is what the word beta has. And then you have gamma, which is the third Greek alphabetical letter. Remember the letters are 24 in number, and so far we have looked at 5, but gamma is the third letter. And so this is how you write gamma. You can see it's slightly touching the middle line, but the tail is crossing the bottom line, and you're going to have letters like these, letters that are touching the middle line as well as crossing below the line. The tails, some of the letters have tails that are crossing below the line. It's an example is the English Y or the English G, and this is how you write the letter gamma. And so this is gamma. The next one is delta. Delta is more like written as if you want to write S, but it has the turning, and the tail turns and twists and touches the side on the middle line, but it crosses below the middle line, but not touching the upper line, while the bottom is resting on the bottom line. So this is delta. Delta is pronounced as D, as in the word done. So this is how you write delta. The next one is epsilon. Epsilon is written like a 3, but only that is flipped. So every time you want to write epsilon, you write it like a 3, but a 3 that is flipped. And epsilon sounds like the English E, E as in eat, as in the word eat, as in the word end. That E is equivalent to epsilon. And this is how you write epsilon. And so these are the letters that we have looked at. We have looked at alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and epsilon. So far we have looked at 5 Greek alphabet letters. Let's move on. The next set of 3, we have zeta. Zeta as in days, as in the word days. That Z sound, that Z sound is equivalent to zeta. That's how you pronounce zeta. And then you have eta. And eta is pronounced E as in obey. Obey. That E sound is how you pronounce eta. Only that the E is prolonged. Obey. And then you have theta. Very common in mathematics. And theta has the TH sound, as in the word thing. Thing. That's how you pronounce theta, or the letter theta. And so let's look at how each one of these is written. Firstly, we have zeta. Among the letters of the Greek alphabet, there are 2 that are a bit similar and can be easily interchanged. So this is how you write zeta. It has a turning on the middle line, but slightly crosses the middle line, while it has a tail that is slightly below the bottom line. It wants to look like an S, but it's not an S. But this is how you write zeta. The next one is eta. Eta looks like the English N, and so most of the time students easily mistake it for N as in English N, but it's not to be mistaken for the N letter. You write it as if you're writing an N, but it has that turning. It touches slightly the bottom line, but has the tail, very important, has that tail that is crossing below the bottom line. The next one is theta. Theta is written like O or like 0, but has that middle line that touches both ends. And so this is how you write theta. And these are the letters that I've looked at so far. We have looked at alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. Let's look at some more Greek alphabetical letters. Our next set of 3 are these. The first one is iota, and this is similar to the English I. It has the sound I as in the word intrigue. The next one is kappa. Kappa sounds like K for English, and so it has that K sound as in the word kitchen. The next one is lambda. Lambda is pronounced like the L sound as in the word law. That L sound for English is how you pronounce the word lambda. And so let's look at how these 3 are written. The first one is iota. Iota is written to touch the bottom line as well as touching the middle line. So it's resting between the middle line as well as the bottom line. And this is how you write iota. The next one is kappa. Kappa is also resting between the middle line and the bottom line. And so this is how you write the word kappa. Lambda may be completely new to the English readers because it may not look like the English L, but this is how you write lambda. It crosses the middle line but touching the bottom line. And so this is how you write lambda. It has that turning on top and the turning at the bottom there. The tail turns on top and turns at the bottom. This is how you write the word, the Greek letter lambda. Moving on, we have these three other letters. The first one is mu. Mu has a sound as M, the English M, as in the word mother. That M sound is how you pronounce the word mu. And the next one is nu, and nu is a bit confusing because it looks like the English V, but it's actually equivalent to N. You pronounce, this is not V, but it's N. You pronounce it as the same way you pronounce the English N. And so most of the time students confuse it with V for English. And so it's not to be read as V, but as N. And so nu has the same sound as N, as in the word new. That N sound is how you pronounce nu. And then you have xi, xi. Xi sounds like X, as in the word axiom. Axiom, that X sound is how you pronounce the letter xi. Let's look at how these are written. With the first one being mu, and mu is written more like M, but it's a bit similar but different because the first tail is below the bottom line. There is a tail that is protruding below the bottom line, but it's resting between the middle line and the bottom line. And so this is how you write mu, which is equivalent to M. The next one is nu, and as I said, it looks like V, but it's not V. In the Greek, it's N. It's written like a V, like the English V, but the pronunciation is N sound, nu. It's equivalent to N. And so this is how you write the word nu. The next one is xi. Xi is one of the hardest letters to write in the Greek alphabet, especially when you're learning how to write Greek alphabetical letters. Xi and chi are a bit similar, and so most of the times are mistaken for one another, but they are different in how you write them. Xi has two turnings, as you can see. One turning is at the middle line, another is just slightly above the middle line, before the top line. And as you are writing, it looks like a 3 that is opposite, only that it has a tail that is turning below the bottom line. And so this is how you write xi. So far we have looked at these alphabetical letters. We have looked at alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, and xi. Let's look at some more Greek alphabet letters. Our next letters, we have Omicron. Omicron is one of the easiest because it's similar to the English O. And so it's pronounced like O as a not. That O sound is how you pronounce the letter Omicron. The next one is Pi, common in the world of mathematics. And so pi has the same sound as P for English, as in the word peach. The other one is Rho. Now Rho is most of the times confused with the English P, but it's not to be pronounced like a P for English, because Rho is the equivalent letter to R that is in English. And so wherever you see a letter that looks like a P in the Greek, just know that that is the R. It's not to be pronounced like a P, but it's to be pronounced like the English R. And so that is Rho. It has R sound, as in the word rod. Let's look at how these letters are written. The first one is Omicron, which is equivalent to O in English. And very simple, it's written like O, resting between the middle line and the bottom line. The next one is Pi. Pi is written like this, resting between also the middle line and the bottom line. And the next one is Rho, which looks like a P, but it's not a P, it's an R. And this is how you write R in Greek. It looks like a P, but it's not a P. It has a tail that is coming below the bottom line. And this is how you write Rho, the Greek ara. And so take note that it's not to be mistaken for a P when you're pronouncing it, especially when you're learning. Kindly note that this is not a P but ara for Greek. The next set of letters we have sigma, and sigma has two letters. There are two kinds of sigma. In the Greek, there are two ways of writing sigma. One when you're beginning the word and one when you're ending a word. But the pronunciation is S as in study. So this is equivalent to the English letter S. The next one is tau, tau, which is equivalent to the English T, and you pronounce it like T sound as in the word talk, that T sound. The next one is upsilon, upsilon. This is pronounced like a U, equivalent to the English sound U. Let's look at how these are written. The first one being sigma, and as I said, sigma has two ways of writing it. There's a sigma that you write when you're beginning a word. For example, that word that is given there, sophos. That word is sophos, sophos. That first sigma that you're seeing there is the sigma that you write when the word is beginning. But that last one there, this sigma here is a sigma that we call it a final sigma. It's a sigma that you write when a word is ending. And so this sigma is always found at the ending of a word, and this sigma is always found when a word is beginning. So every time you have a Greek word that is beginning with S or sigma, it always begins with this sigma. And every time you have a Greek word that is ending, it's always going to end with this sigma. That is more like looking like the S for English. So these are two ways you write sigma. One at the beginning of a word and one at the ending of a word. The next one is tau, which is equivalent to the English T. And tau is similar to T in how you write it, only that at the bottom it protrudes, it bends. Instead of being straight, it bends at the bottom. That's how you write the Greek letter tau. The next one is upsilon, and upsilon is very similar to how you write U for English, only that as you can see it has that bending when it's touching the middle line, but it's resting between the middle line and the bottom line. So far, these are the Greek letters that we have looked at. We have looked at alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, which there are two, tau, upsilon. Let's look at some more Greek letters as we end. The next one is phi. It has the PH sound. It's a phi as in phone. That PH sound as in the word phone. The next one is chi. It has the CH sound. It's chi as in the word chemical. The next one is psi. So this is pronounced with a PS sound, as in the English word lips. That ps, that PS sound is how you pronounce the letter psi. The last one in the Greek alphabet, the last letter in the Greek alphabet is omega. Now it's not written like O, but it's written like W. And so most of the times it's mistaken for W for English, but it's not W in the Greek. It's omega, it's O. It's having the O sound, as in the word tone. And so you have these letters that look like English letters, but in the Greek they stand for something else. And they must be mastered. Otherwise, it's easy to mistake them for some English letters. And so let's look at how these letters are written. The first one is phi, which is written as if you want to write O, but it turns and bends and crosses the O. So that's how you write the Greek letter phi with a PH sound. The next one is chi, and chi is written like X for English, but it protrudes just below the line. And so this is how you write chi. Looks like X for English, but it's slightly different because it has those lines that are curving. The next one is psi. Psi is written like as if you want to write U, but a U that is crossed and the line comes below the bottom line. And finally, the last letter in the Greek alphabet is omega. And this is how omega is written. It looks like W, but it's not W. And so omega has the O sound. Again, these are letters that are similar to some English letters, and so it's very easy to mistake them for English letters, but they are very different in the Greek. And so as you are looking at the Greek alphabet, two things are very important. Learn how to pronounce them and learn how to write them. And repetition is going to be the key. Learn how to continuously learn how to pronounce them and learn how to write them. So far, these are the letters that we have looked at. We have looked at alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, and finally omega. Just to show you the difference between small letters and capital letters for Greek. And so up there you have the small letters, which are the ones that we focus on when you're learning Greek. And down there you have the capital letters, which are rarely used in the Greek Bible, mostly used when you're dealing with names of a person or names of places. So for now, we're going to be dwelling on the small letters as we talk about the Greek alphabet. As we talk about the Greek alphabet, there are some letters that are called double consonants, where two sounds are combined into one letter. For example, you have theta, you have xi, you have phi, you have chi, you have psi. For example, you have theta that has two sounds, th, that combine to make one letter, which is theta. Letters in the Greek alphabet that are having two letters combined to make one letter sound, these are what we call double consonants. For example, you have theta, you have xi, which is ks, that ks sound, and you have phi, which is having ph sound, and then you have chi, which is having ch sound, and lastly you have psi, which is having ps sound. So these are what we call double consonants. When you're looking at them, you're looking at two letters that are embedded to form one letter. As we look at the Greek alphabet, it's very important also to look at letters that are easily confused with the English letters. For example, you have eta. It's easy to confuse eta with the English N. And so eta is not to be pronounced or seen as N for English, because eta is E in the Greek. And you have nu, which looks like a V in the English, but it's not a V. In the Greek, it's N. It's having that N sound. And then you have rho, which looks like a P in the English, but in the Greek, it's R. You also have chi, which looks like X in the English, but in the Greek, it has that CH sound, chi. And then you have the last one, omega, which looks like a W in the English, but in the Greek, it has the O sound. As you are learning the Greek alphabet, take note of those that can be easily confused with English letters and practice how to pronounce them and how to write them. While we're talking about the alphabet, I'm going to give some pronunciation keys, and one of which is repetition, to repeatedly write out the letter and learn how to pronounce them. But as you are learning how to pronounce, there's something that we call gamma nasal. Now, gamma nasal is a situation where the letter gamma comes before gamma itself, or the letter kappa, or chi, or xi. So instead of pronouncing it like GG, that is gamma gamma, you are going to pronounce the first gamma as N. Let me give you an example that is clear. For example, you have the word angelos. Angelos. Angelos means angel. Now, the pronunciation should have been agelos, because these are two gammas. You have two gammas next to each other there. Instead of pronouncing it as agelos, the pronunciation becomes angelos. Angelos. So the first G is not going to be pronounced like a gamma, which is a G. It's going to be pronounced like an N. So in a situation where you have two gammas next to each other in a word, the way you pronounce that word changes. Instead of saying agelos, you are going to pronounce it as angelos. the first G turns into an N, and this is what we call gamma nasal. Moving on, Greek has 7 vowels. Unlike English, Greek has 7 vowels, and these are the vowels. The first one is alpha, there is epsilon, there is eta, there is iota, there is omicron, there is upsilon, and finally there is omega. So these are the 7 vowels in the Greek alphabet. The rest are called consonants. When you remove the vowels from the Greek alphabet, the rest that remain are called consonants. And so the vowel chart below shows the 7 vowels in the Greek alphabet. They are subdivided into short vowels and long vowels. What makes them short or long is how you pronounce them. For example, there are 2 letters that make the E sound, but one is short, one is long. For example, you have epsilon, which is pronounced as E, but you have eta, which is pronounced as A. So one is a short form, one is a long pulled form in how you pronounce it. And then we have 2 letters that are pronounced with O sound. We have omicron and omega. And between these 2, one is short, which is omicron, and you have a long one, which is omega. So how you pronounce omicron is O, how you pronounce omega is O. Omega is pulled, omicron is short form. And there are 3 other vowels. These ones can be short or long depending on the context. Otherwise, there are 7 vowels in the Greek alphabet. It's very important to know this and to know the difference between vowels and which letters are consonants. As you are learning how to pronounce letters, there's something important that is called diphthong. Now, a diphthong is a combination of 2 vowels pronounced as a single sound. A diphthong is a situation where you have 2 vowels but are pronounced as one sound. So these are 2 vowels next to each other but are pronounced as one sound. Please take note that the second vowel among these 2 vowels next to each other is always going to be either iota or upsilon. As you are looking at the examples, you can tell that the second letter among the 2 vowels is always going to be iota or upsilon. If the second vowel is not iota or upsilon, it means that the 2 vowels are not a diphthong, and therefore they don't qualify to be pronounced as one sound. For example, let's look at these examples of diphthongs. You have the first one, which is, you're supposed to pronounce the first one as I, but because there are 2 vowels next to each other and they qualify to be a diphthong because the second vowel is iota, these 2 vowels are to be pronounced as a diphthong, as one sound. So the pronunciation is E. For example, the Greek example that I can give is I roar, I roar. Second example is A. You're supposed to pronounce it as A, but because it's a diphthong, it's supposed to be pronounced as one sound. And so the pronunciation is 8. You stress again on the second vowel. The other example of a diphthong is Oi. You're supposed to pronounce it as Oi, but because it's a diphthong, it must be pronounced as one sound. And so the emphasis is on the second vowel, so the pronunciation is E. Instead of Oi, is E. An example in the Greek is oikia. When you're looking at the diphthong, you pronounce it as ikia. Another example is alpha upsilon. The first one is alpha iota. The second one is epsilon iota. Third one is omicron iota. The fourth one is alpha upsilon. And you pronounce it as U with the U sound. Example that I can give is utos. Instead of saying autos, you're going to pronounce that Greek word as utos. Instead of autos, you're going to pronounce it as utos. And a diphthong, these are 2 vowels next to each other, but pronounced as one sound, utos. The next one is omicron upsilon. Omicron upsilon is pronounced as U, the U sound. For example, as in the word soup, the English word soup. A Greek example that I can give is Uden. Instead of saying Ouden, you pronounce it as Uden, one sound. The next example is upsilon iota. And the emphasis again is that it should pronounce one sound, as in the English word sweet. The Greek example that I can give is ios. The last example is epsilon upsilon. And the way you pronounce this is U. U. For example, feud. And the example that I can give, the first example that I can give in the Greek is uthas. So these are the examples of diphthong. Remember, a diphthong, we said these are two vowels next to each other but pronounced as one sound. And always remember that it's not all vowels that are next to each other that are diphthongs. The key is in identifying a diphthong is to look at the second vowel. You are looking at two vowels, but is the second vowel upsilon or iota? If it's not upsilon or iota, those two do not qualify to be a diphthong. As you look at diphthongs, there's something that is also called iota subscript. Now, the definition of a iota subscript is that a iota subscript is an improper diphthong. Sometimes a vowel combines with iota subscript, which is a small iota written under a long vowel. And the example that is given there, you have alpha, and then you have eta, you have omega, and under each of those letters you have iota, which is being subscripted or written under. So these qualify to be a diphthong, but they are special kind of diphthongs. Instead of writing the iota after alpha or after eta or after omega, you have the iota which is subscripted, which is written under each of those letters. Again, these are qualifying to be a diphthong, but they are improper diphthong because it's not the way you write a diphthong in the proper way. And so the definition of iota subscript is that a iota subscript is an improper diphthong. It's a special kind of a diphthong. But take note, even though the iota is silent, it often carries grammatical significance. So as you are looking at grammar, that iota that is under is very important. And these are the examples here of iota subscripts. You have alpha and iota, you have eta and iota, and you have omega and iota. All these are examples of iota subscripts. Another thing to take note of is what we call diaresis marks. Now, diaresis marks are two dots that you place on top of two vowels, but placed specifically on top of the second vowel in a diphthong. Remember, a diphthong, these are two vowels next to each other, pronounced as one sound. When you place two dots on top of the second letter among the two vowels, these dots are called diaresis marks. Their function is to cancel the diphthong effect. These two dots are telling you that instead of you to pronounce the two vowels as one sound, they are no longer a diphthong. You pronounce the two vowels as separate. For example, the good example that we can give is the word Moses. You're supposed to pronounce it as Moses because these two are a diphthong. But because of these two dots that are on top of upsilon, the pronunciation is going to be not one sound but two vowels that are separately pronounced. For example, you're supposed to pronounce it as Moses, but in this case, because of the diaresis marks, you're going to pronounce it as Mouzes. And so this is very important to knowing how to pronounce Greek words, because these two dots are telling you that, yes, this is a diphthong, but do not pronounce these two vowels that are next to each other as a diphthong. Pronounce them having separate sounds. Another example is Haizias. Instead of you pronouncing it as Hasias, the alpha and the iota making one sound, as you can see, you have two dots on top of iota, and so the sound changes from being Hasias to Hasaias. That I remains separate sound, Hasaias. So this is what diaresis marks are for. They cancel the diphthong effect. Instead of pronouncing two vowels as one sound, the two vowels are pronounced like separate sounds. Again, as we look at how to pronounce Greek letters, there's something that is very important, and these ones are called breathing marks. Now, breathing marks are apostrophes. It's an apostrophe that you place when a vowel is beginning a word or the letter rho is beginning a word. Now, in the Greek, there are two kinds of breathing marks. There's what we call the smooth breathing mark, which is the apostrophe that is facing the left, and there's the rough breathing mark, which is the apostrophe that is facing the right. These are what we call breathing marks. Breathing marks are very important because they affect pronunciation, especially the rough breathing mark. On top there you have the smooth breathing mark in the word apostolos. And the smooth breathing mark does not affect the way you pronounce a word. But when you have the rough breathing mark, the apostrophe that is facing the right, on top of a vowel, pronunciation is going to be affected because the presence of the rough breathing mark is going to add H sound before the letter that is having the apostrophe. For example, that word there is hupa. If you don't take note of the rough breathing mark, the pronunciation is upa, upa. But because of the presence of this breathing mark, how you pronounce it becomes hupa, as HU instead of just U. So you are going to place H sound before the word because of the rough breathing mark. So the rough breathing mark is very important for pronunciation. The smooth breathing mark does not affect pronunciation. And so coming to point number 2, breathing marks are also placed before single capital letters, for example in names of people. As in this case, you have that smooth breathing mark before the word Jesus. Jesus. That is iota, eta, sigma, omicron, upsilon, sigma. Jesus. You can tell that the pronunciation is not going to be affected with the presence of the smooth breathing mark. But if you have the rough breathing mark, pronunciation is going to be affected because you're going to have the H sound. Breathing marks can also be placed on top of 2 vowels, or let me say on top of a diphthong. So you always place it on the second vowel of the diphthong. The most important point to remember here is that there are 2 kinds of breathing marks, the smooth breathing mark and the rough breathing mark. The rough breathing mark is the one that affects the way you pronounce a word. You place H sound before the vowel. For example, in that case, you have hupa instead of upa. That is very important. So just a summary of what we've looked at so far. We have looked at the Greek alphabet. We were learning how to write and how to pronounce the letters. And we were focusing on lower cases, the small letters of the Greek alphabet, how to write them and how to pronounce them. There are 2 most important things that you need to take note of: how to pronounce the letters and how to write the letters, the way the letters are written and how the letters are pronounced. This is very important because you can't progress from here without learning how to write the letters and learning how to pronounce the letters. And we also looked at the vowels, and we said there are 7 vowels. In the Greek, you have a, e, I, o, U, O. That's how you pronounce them. You have alpha, epsilon, eta, iota, omicron, upsilon, and omega. And we also talked about breathing marks. And we said there are 2 kinds of breathing marks. We have the smooth breathing mark and the rough breathing mark. And we said the most important one is the rough breathing mark because it's the one that affects pronunciation, creating that H sound. We also looked at diphthongs, and we said they are improper diphthongs, the ones that are having iota subscript. So this is a summary of what we've looked at so far. And so let me just show you how to apply these pronunciation techniques when you're dealing with Greek words. I'm going to go through vocabulary that you'll find in the vocabulary handout. And these words are for you to go through them, learning how to write the letters and learning how to pronounce the letters, and also more importantly, learning what the word means in the Greek as well as what it means in the English. So what I want you to do is to look at the vocabulary. You find the notes up on the site. What I want you to do is to learn how to pronounce the word and what the word means in the English. Remember, every chapter has words to learn. Some chapters have 10 words you need to learn. Some have more than 10 words to learn. So in this case, we're going to look at some of the words that you need to learn by heart and master their meaning as well as how to pronounce the words. Please take the vocabulary very seriously. Find time to know these words and do not bypass any chapter without knowing the words, because these words are going to come in the quiz as well as in the assignments. For example, you have the word angelos. It's not agelos because you have what we called gamma nasal. We have already discussed gamma nasal, where you have 2 G's or two gammas. You have a gamma and a gamma. After you have alpha, gamma, gamma. So in a place where you have two gammas that are next to each other, the first gamma is not going to be pronounced as gamma as G sound, but as N sound. So you have angelos. And angelos means an angel. The next one you have amen. Amen. Remember, that last letter there is not V, but it's N. So it's amen. It's not V, but it's N. So they can easily be mistaken for N. And the second from the last here, you have alpha, you have mu, you have A, which is the equivalent to English E, and you have N. So you have amen, amen, which means truly or verily, or it means amen in the English. It means amen. The next one is anthropos, anthropos, anthropos. And this is where we get the English word anthropology, the study of man. And anthropos means man. So they are very similar. You can tell just from the way you pronounce the word. Some words are very familiar because English is a language that borrows. So some of the words are borrowed from the Greek, as in this case, anthropos, which means man in the English. So you need to learn how to pronounce the word and what the word actually means in English. This is very important. Please practice how to pronounce the word and what the word means in English. Again there, that is not a V after alpha. That is not a V, but it's N. And so the pronunciation is anthropos. Anthropos. It's A-N, anthropos. Next word is ego. Ego, from where we get the English word egocentric. And ego in the Greek, in the English, it means I. The next word is theos, from where we get the word theology, the study of God. And theos in Greek, in English, it means God. The next word is kai, and kai means end. The next word is cardia, cardia. This is not capdia. That one is not P, but it's Rho, which is equivalent to ara. After kappa, you have alpha, and then you have Rho. So don't mistake that to be P. It's not P. It's not capdia, it's cardia. It's ara. And this cardia is where we get the English word cardiac. Or when we say cardiac arrest, the person has cardiac arrest. We refer to the person having a heart attack. And this is why we get the English word heart, cardia. And cardia means heart. And then we have lego, lego. Lego, you have lambda, epsilon, gamma, omega, lego. Lego means I say. It's a verb. It means I say. And then you have prophetess, prophetess. Now, again, I said if you can pronounce it very well, some of the words are very familiar to English. For example, prophetess. Already you can tell that this is prophet. This is where we get the word prophet. And then we have the word Christos. Remember that's chi. You have chi rho, iota, sigma tau, omicron, sigma. That is Christos. As I said it, there are two kinds of sigma. You have sigma that is found at the beginning of a word or in between a word, and there's one that is always written at the ending of a word. So that one is Christos, and Christos, again, some letters are very similar. If you can pronounce it very well, you can tell what it means in the English. Christos means Christ, or the Messiah, or the Anointed One. Next we have the word Sabbaton. Sabbaton. Sabbaton means Sabbath. Sabbaton means Sabbath. Next we have the word phone. Phone. Phone means sound. Phone means sound. And this is where we get words like phonetics, the English words phonetics or phonology. And this is where the word phone comes from, sound. Phone means sound. Now what I want you to do is to go through these words and learn how to pronounce them. And you must learn what these words mean in the English. So this is a summary of what we've looked at in this lecture. the alphabet, how to pronounce the letters, and how to write the letters. Remember, our focus in Greek is on the lowercase, the small letters. We look at the name of the letter and how to pronounce the letter and how to write the letter. We looked at the vowels as well, and we said there are 7 vowels: A, E, O, and then we have O. We have A, E, O, U, O. Those are 7 vowel letters in the Greek alphabet. And we looked at breathing marks, and we said there's a rough breathing mark and smooth breathing mark. We also looked at diphthong, and we looked at a diphthong being 2 vowels next to each other but pronounced as one sound. We looked at also a special form of a diphthong called improper diphthongs. This marks the end of this lecture. Until next time, God bless.